Hey everybody, it's Colette Baron-Reid, and I have got something so special for you today. I have this awesome guest on. She is the author of this new #1 best-selling book called Jump and Your Life Will Appear, an inch-by-inch guide to making a major change. So please welcome event director and author and amazing poet, Nancy Levin. Hey Nancy, so welcome.
Hi, Colette. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Oh my God, me too. Oh my God, first of all, I want everybody to know, I'm just totally verklempt that we're doing this. If I cry, you guys, you're just gonna have to live with it because I'm very emotional right now. Okay, so everybody, if you've read my book, The Map, Nancy here wrote the poetry that I chose to begin and end my book, The Map. So when you go and look at that book, you are going to see some beautiful words that Nancy penned. And so my journey with you, I wanna just share a little bit, has been a long one because you were with me as the event director at Hay House, and you still are, but my very first event where I was so terrified that my lip stuck to my tooth because all the saliva left my mouth when Louise Hay came and sat at the back of my room. And I was so freaked out and terrified that I kept looking at you. Was it okay? Was it okay? Like total people pleaser and like terrified. And really, you also were such an integral part of my growth and my coming alive as a speaker and as an intuitive, and being the oracle on stage, touring with Sylvia Brown. Boy, do we have some stories. Oh,
boy, do we have stories.
We're gonna save those for another video. But I think what has really struck me, and this book, because the book itself is a teaching tool for anyone who reads it. I know you, so I knew the Nancy before she wrote the book. And we didn't speak for a couple of years because we went our separate ways. I wrote the book with Random House, blah, blah, blah. You did your thing. Actually, you did all this thing. And so what really struck me, I bawled when I read this book because what you did in such a courageous way, and this is courage, guys. If you really, really want to grow and transform, courage does not mean the absence of fear, just so y'all know. Anyhow, so you were so transparent, and I think that now we need teachers and leaders that are willing to share their humanity, that it's no more the guru, leader where they're perfect and we follow and we think we're going to get something from them because they're going to teach us how to be perfect. And in your own journey of imperfection, I feel that you shared such sensitivity with us, the reader, with me. I felt so intimately involved in your personal transformation. Doubly because I know you, but it was like I was discovering the you that I did see and that I did know glimpses of. But when we're run by our fear or our shadow, when our shadow is our primary driver of the bus, I like to say the shadow drives the bus, and then what the heck, where are we going, right? We don't get a chance to be totally ourselves. So I'd like to start a little bit because I want you to do some talking, obviously. I'm going to talk the whole time. That would be bad. So your first chapter is the most important thing, which is freaking start where you are, right? Like you says, admit to yourself what you already know. What was that like for you?
This was a really critical piece for me because, and listen, like you just said, you saw me. You saw the way that I projected an image of perfection to the world, the way I managed the perceptions of others, and the way that, my motto was never let them see you sweat.
Right.
And I was really unwilling to have any deep knowledge of myself at the time, because if I looked too deeply, I would really uncover something that was too great to then look away from.
Right.
We can't unknow what we know.
Right.
And so when I hit my crisis point, which, I share in the book and I've shared on stage, the crisis point for me was really when I came home from the first I Can Do It at Sea cruise with Hay House to discover that my husband of nearly 18 years had read my journal.
I know. Ouch.
Yeah. And so I will tell you that the piece of this that I had to really admit to myself that was very, very difficult was that I had had an affair 8 years prior. Right. And that is what he read. Mm-hmm. And so for someone who has been living with this mask of perfectionism, overachieving, doing everything I could possibly do so that no one would see my flaws, and certainly not this gigantic flaw that I felt so much guilt and shame over for so long, that I felt I had to compartmentalize, that I felt I had to hide, and was driving the bus.
Right. What I want to speak to a little bit with you here is, that, and I totally identify with this, and I know so many people will too, is that, we live such fast lives too, and to stay still long enough to see that parts of ourselves that we've disowned, is very scary. And transformation is not supposed to be happy, joyous, and free when we do it. It's supposed to be disconnecting. I mean, when I say that, we have to let go of the old self, but we can't let it go until we see it. So I really understand. I mean, I remember you that way too, and I would think you were Wonder Woman. I mean, you were.
Yes.
I was like... And so what was there are two things that I think when a journal is read by somebody, right? One, we're betrayed because we put our life and soul and our secret thoughts there, right? That's one thing. But I do think there is a liberation. You talked about that in your book, being liberated by your own truth, of looking at yourself honestly.
And that's really the piece about the transparency that you mentioned earlier. I mean, what I really learned about this is that the energy it took to hold a secret, the energy it took to have a withhold from myself, a withhold from everyone in my life. The fact that I don't have to put that energy there anymore has provided me with this profound resource that I can put to much better use doing much better things.
Your poetry gave us clues about this. I remember when I first met you, and predictions are interesting too, because when a person is a certain state, you can predict that they are going to remain in this continuously until they make a major change. Like, for example, staying with your husband forever, right?
Yes.
If you hadn't changed, that would have happened. Maybe, right? Or in the same pattern. But I remember looking at you and saying, you have to write. You're going to write. And so in your poetry, when you first put out your first poetry book, you told us who you were in that book. You showed us and anybody, what's the name of that? The Writing for My Life, right?
My Life.
Writing for My Life is your first poetry book.
Yes.
And you do not have to be a fan of poetry to read this book, you guys. You need to be a fan of humanity to read this book and be willing to go deep. You taught me a word called liminal. In this
One of
liminal
my favorite
space,
words.
in the in-between. Yeah, so... And you traced the human journey of what we're afraid to look at and the longing and yearning for self, for integration. I really saw that first. And I think your poetry, if I'm correct, and you being willing to do it and to write it might have been the key to also.
Yeah, and that was a really important time when I was writing that. I was right as I was leaving my marriage.
Right.
And, I call that book, it's like a poetic memoir. It's the stepping stones that I took to be able to leave. And it was this peeling back. It was the uncovering. It was the deep looking at my shadow, at my underlying commitments, at my disowned qualities, at my projections, all of it, that allowed me to reveal to myself and to others the real me. I was finally willing to step out of that compartmentalization and be myself. And what I have found is that the connection I'm able to have now with others is so profound because I'm not busy trying to make you think anything about me.
Yeah.
And I really trust now that I am loved for who I am, not for what I do.
Right, or what you can give to other people.
I give people a lesson in here to learn. And so in the admitting to myself what I knew to be true, I was able to begin to start peeling back the layers of myself so that I could really see and get into alignment with myself and my own truth, and make decisions and choices from there that would serve the highest vision and the highest version of myself ultimately. And I began to live my life that way.
Well, it's certainly obvious.
And then what really happened is, the second step of the book is tell the truth to someone safe.
Right.
And what happened there in revealing to, at first, one person, our very dear friend Cheryl Richardson,
right,
at first revealing to her and then being able to reveal to others this truth was as if I was, hitting the steam valve on a pressure cooker.
right.
And so it just let out all of this fear and guilt and shame I'd been holding inside of myself. And over time, what happens is, Brene Brown speaks about it best, of course, that, shame can't live in the open air. Shame can't
Right.
live with the light of day on it and with voice being given to it.
Yeah.
That shame only lives when it's being held in. And so what's really happened is in this 4-year period of leaving my marriage, doing all this work on myself, writing this book in particular, and today to be able to sit before you and really say, I feel no shame around this, something that had held me hostage in my life for so long, held me back for so long.
This reminds me a little bit about AA. And the concept of the first 4 steps is about accepting really who you are right now, what you have. And then in the step 5, which is to confess, right, is to share your experience with somebody who you trust, just like that. And it is, we set ourselves free from being a hostage to an old story. And then what happens is, there's a really interesting scientific connection to this too, because we become addicted to the chemicals that our body creates and the neural networks that are operating on a subconscious level. We keep repeating this, the thought plus the elevated emotion, right? So when we have that and it's consistently conditioned, we're also going to be coherent with those experiences that we draw from other people. We don't get intimate. We lose sight of what we want. We see ourselves embittered. We feel shame. We're disconnected that way, not from from ourselves and from others. But what you had was this epiphany moment, and I think that's just so key. People are wanting to transform right now, and you're living proof, and that it didn't kill you to look at your shame and to see your shadow. And if anything, the thing you were most afraid of sets you completely free.
Completely. And that was really such a lesson to me, because I so feared revealing myself to all of you authors who I'd been producing events with, traveling around the world with for, over a decade, all these great minds in the fields of personal empowerment and spiritual transformation. And, the truth is that while the teachings had sort of, been floating around me and landing in me by osmosis, it wasn't until I was in my own crisis point and that I really reached out and asked for help from the people I feared asking the help from the most.
Right.
That I found that they rallied around me the fiercest.
Right. But it's that little flag, right?
Yeah.
All it is the flag. You say help and help appears. It's like when they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But it's also really about, and I love the thing when you talked about imagining yourself free, that one different choice, because that's part of this too. When you have that moment of freedom, which you did, and that's how we condition ourselves as well, too. It's also biochemical. Like, we're going to release a certain set of hormones. It's a spiritual, mystical experience. It really is where you get the mind, body, spirit engaged in an integrative way. When you're willing to take the risk, do what you did, confess to somebody else, and then take that moment and go, what would it be like if I were free of these stories? Because the stories really don't go away. They just move aside so that we can create new stories. So we build on them again. This was what I was like, but here is what I'm like today. So that, and you become a teaching tool for us all. And I do believe that this is the new wave of teachers is, when I say that, I mean it with great respect, is this is how it's got to go now. Go ahead.
What I often say on stage even now is, that I'm sort of a product of having a front row seat and a backstage pass for all these years with all these amazing teachers, and that really the bottom line is that all this Hay House stuff, all this personal transformational work, all the self-help, this shit works.
Yeah. But you have to do it.
But you have to do the work, but it works.
Yeah, it does work.
I'm living proof. I feel like I've come full circle around to where now I've been able to integrate all of these lessons, and I've done the work, and I'm still doing the work.
Yeah, but I love that. You're still doing the work, because that's the thing that I want to speak to, because a lot of people come to these events, these Hay House events, these my events, everybody's events, or take our courses, and they think that they're going to be instantly transformed and that'll be that. After the epiphany comes it always going to be good, and it isn't. It's a day at a time. We definitely become new, but we have to commit to that new self every day, and that means that if the shadow is not, and I call it the goblin, or the different characters, sub-personalities that we all have, each of us different versions of it. But the old stories are ancestral stories that we've inherited. It takes time to identify the different voices, who's talking, who's on first, what's going on, because we can't be fully conscious all the time. And especially if we've lived 50 years of our lives, or in your case, I think you're younger than that. So, doing the same thing, just a little bit. I'm way over that. So without having some kind of an invitation yet again to continue to do the dance, right? And so I like that you said that. But it's not work like, oh, we have to work, because I don't think it's like that either. I think it's a willingness to stay vulnerable.
It's a willingness to stay vulnerable, and it's also now gotten to the point where I feel that it's exciting. I feel that every time I'm dealing with someone triggering the heck out of me, I'm like, oh, okay, what is that quality, and what is it in me that I have yet to integrate?
Oh,
like I so I'll look from that angle, and I also this is like a giant reboot of your own internal operating system, because we've been dealing with these patterns for so long. They're so ingrained in us. And so that one different choice that you talked about earlier is it's what's the one thing that's going to set you off in a different direction to do a different behavior that's different from your habit, different from your pattern. And that's where the possibility lies. We are these creatures of comfort and these creatures of wanting certainty. But the truth is that all of our choices and decisions and actions of the past brought us to here.
Right.
And if we make no change in the present, if we don't make different choices, if we don't take different action, our future is just going to be a continuation of where we are.
That's right.
And so it all comes down to that in every moment we do have a choice. Right. And that the choices we make can either serve the highest version of ourselves and the life that we want to live, or it can disempower us and keep us in the past. Absolutely.
And the disempowering part is familiar to many people, and I think that they don't realize that they're choosing the disempowerment, even though they intellectually say they don't want it, because there's such a striving for certainty that all human beings have as innate in our characters and our natures. I mean, it's not natural for us to want to be disenfranchised and disconnected and in chaos and growth. We want to have a nice cushy space to land, and that's not what this is like, even though we get even better places to land, right? Like we actually do, but we don't stay there forever. And I think that, when we pick the disempowering things, and we can't see ourselves as victims. We have to say, okay, all right, I get it. Like my husband and I, Mark says to me, get on your bird all the time, because that's kind of one of the processes in the Envision process where we get something called spatial distance and detachment to become the observer of your thoughts. Because I'll be right in that pattern of like, I'm stressed and whatever, and he'll like, who are you listening to? Where's your bird? And that's true.
It's a habit. It's a habit.
It's a habit.
It's just a habit.
And stress is addictive.
Very.
And perfectionism addictive. Okay, I got to share this one funny thing. Okay, so you wrote about how you missed your when they gave you a standing ovation, and you walked off the stage, and you were so worried because remember you were there always. Well, I laughed my head off because one time you got mad at me when I got off the stage, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know, was it good? I don't know, and you're like, stop it. I thought to myself, oh my God, she totally knows. She totally knows. Because it's true. It's like there's this part of us when we're in that space of feeling not enough, right? And that somebody will see that we know that we're not enough. Ooh, right? And then we miss all the good stuff, right?
Well, and when we're stuck in the needing that external validation.
Yes.
And that's really a critical piece that I've learned in the work that I've been doing.
Me too.
And what, and so now, I'm coaching, and in my coaching practice, this is what I work with clients on so much is, all love begins with self-love. And the truth is that we need to resolve internally first.
Totally.
What we're seeking for externally.
And and that is so important for everybody right now. This is a conversation I have with literally everyone. And it was the thing that I was most ashamed of too when I had that experience, for me anyway, of not loving myself, and now maybe people will see, it's just horrifying for me that I actually, and then having that dynamic, and it was funny that you were part of it, but recognizing that I really needed to heal that was back then. It was like, what is it that I need from people? I have to not care. And I also am in that space. I mean, since we haven't spoken a long time, it's like really I approve of me. And I approve of me. I approve of all of me, including the parts of me that, before I wanted to disown, and I got to wrap them up in a baby blanket. You know what I mean? It's a call for love.
It's the only way.
Yeah, and it's a call for acceptance and a call for love. You made another really interesting point in here too, and I love too that you asked questions in your book for people, because this is not just a book of your stories. Although honestly, guys, this is the only way anybody's going to learn is if they hear somebody else's story, so you can identify. So don't compare yourself with Nancy. Identify with her experience, because if you do that, you are going to get so much more out of this book. So don't read it like she's telling stories about famous people, etc. She happens to have been and is the Hay House director at Hay House. It's what happened to her and the experience that she's had and how it's revealed herself to herself, because every single one of us is in her book. I'd like to talk to you about something in your book called resistance, because I think it's a crucial piece. Just like a little seed, the seedling has to push up against the whole ground. Nothing can grow without resistance, right? So, and that of course has to come before jump. So tell me about it.
Well, first of all, resistance really is an unconscious, protective, defense mechanism. Mm-hmm. So it's first there really as protection. And resistance isn't always a bad thing. Like, there are things in life that we should be resistant to, that it's okay to. But, I talk about honoring your resistance because, I spent so much of my life just muscling through.
Right.
Just sucking it up and muscling it through. And what I realized is that I didn't really take the time to honor the part of me that was in conflict with that, or that was in resistance to that. And that, we can really hold the tension of opposites.
Right.
There's a story in my book where in the same moment that I was waiting for my ex-husband to sign the divorce papers and send them in, I also had this, fantasy that he would knock the door down and say, let's work it out, let's go to therapy, let's figure it out. And then I thought, how can I be holding these two things?
Right.
And it was my resistance to each in some way.
Yep.
To just honor the feelings that I have when I feel them, and not to judge them, but to just be with them.
I think that's the piece, is not to judge them. Everybody wants things in black and white, and I really believe in this and that, right? Yeah. This too and this too.
Yes.
And that's what I had to learn. That's probably, I think, one of the greatest skills that I had to learn as I became such a strange mix of things that I am, and I had to be okay with all of it. And but also, to be able to, like you said, want something, be afraid of it, because I think resistance is also about fear. You're right, it's about self-protection. If somebody has not learned a way to set healthy boundaries, for example, a resistance is a clue for them, right?
Yes.
Not to push through, that's an intuitive note to say, hey, step back. But I think resistance just alone, the essence of it, is a crucial piece to pay attention to. What is this resistance? Why do I have this resistance?
Why do I have this resistance? And really to look at, what am I not accepting?
Right.
in this moment, what am I not accepting?
Right.
And really looking at the resistance to what is. Because we create our own suffering by not accepting what is.
Oh, totally. That's right. Admit to yourself what you already know, but you don't want to say. Could have said, you should could have said that, right? You're right. Until you, and I really believe in radical acceptance. I mean, you must accept all aspects as allowed to be there. You can't make something go away just by wishing it away, or, the integrity means that all pieces get to exist together. Now we have to put that puzzle together. All the puzzle pieces are allowed to be there. And so I think that really gets down to that self-acceptance, that radical self-acceptance, which takes courage. I think it took courage. What I saw through this book was the word courage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is a, through line of this whole process for me, to really come out and stand in my truth, to take my space, to stake my claim, even in the very literal aspect of walking out on stage and owning, I'm here to share myself with you and share my story with you, from the place of having all these years been the one backstage and putting the spotlight on everyone else, to really step into the owning my light. I am here, and I have a story to tell, and I have something to share, and I want to share this with you in hopes that it can help heal you too.
Yeah, I love that. So when you said the graceful exit, that's such a great, just the chapter alone. What do you mean by that?
So one thing that was very important to me was that in these 10 steps, that the last step was not jump.
Right.
Because I think so many programs and so many books and so many things like that sort of leave you, hanging.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have, so jump is the 8th step. And then, 9 is the graceful exit. And it's really about this time of saying goodbye to what was. It's the liminal that we were talking about earlier. It's the space the space between no longer and not yet.
Not yet. Between worlds. Liminal is about between worlds. And to be able to, I think, to navigate that space is where grace lies.
And so, yes, because so many of us rush through that time because we don't want to feel what we feel in the in-between.
Yeah. I do that, and then I have to go back. I'm like, I got to go there. No, go back.
Right. And we feel that. We feel the pull to the old because the new is compelling, but we still don't know how to get there because it's so new. And we're still navigating the trust, So what I'm really saying with the graceful exit is, give due grief, give due goodbye to an appreciation to the past and to what got you to this precipice.
So when you spoke about grief, I think people don't want to feel that pain. I think that's the other, everybody's looking for that panacea that's going to, especially in self-help and personal development. I don't think anybody comes in and goes, come on, can I feel some pain now? That'd be awesome, all right? Hey, Colette, can you help me feel some pain? No, they want to say, I want to become the best version of myself. Well, guess what? Part of this is we have to acknowledge that when we say goodbye to the old self, there's going to be some grief there. And it's not, we can't kick it to the curb. Then that's
what we resist persists.
Yeah.
And the other piece of that for me, in addition to grief, was really befriending my anger.
Yeah.
And especially, in my situation in my marriage, I was with someone who had rage very accessible to him. And I had no voice. I had no ability to tap into my own anger. I had completely disowned my anger.
Right.
And so I would say that something I'm very grateful for in the past couple of years is getting to a place where I have been able to really embrace my anger, been able to express my anger in a healthy way, and learn that expressing my anger doesn't mean that the people to whom I'm expressing it doesn't mean that they'll leave me.
No.
Or that they don't love me anymore.
No, and you can't be afraid of that. And I think a lot of us are afraid of that. I
was very afraid of that.
Me too. I mean, I finally married a man who is stronger than me, and who I know is not going to walk away if I express myself that I'm angry or hurting about something. I trust, but it's not just him. I had to trust that I wasn't going to run away from myself.
Right. And that's what it is. Because this ultimately about looking at the places where I've abandoned myself in the past.
Right.
And how willing I was to step over my own boundaries, to caretake someone else, to please someone else, to always put someone else before me.
Yeah.
To always sublimate my needs, wants, desires for someone else's.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say that I'm in a place now where I don't do that anymore.
No, and you can share more. When you don't do that, you have more to bring to the table.
Yeah.
I think, I also think, too, it's cultural and societal. I think we all, especially women, we have to learn a new way of being with ourselves, being with our partners, being with our sexuality. We won't talk about chapter 10, but ladies, you should all read that one.
Chapter 10!
Chapter 10! Ooh, juicy. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're doing something on the behalf of a collective, not just, us as individuals who have had similar things. I think it's all of us. That's why I so identified. That's why that book went to number one. It's not just
you. No, I feel that. I feel that there's something in me that's sort of healing patterns in lifetimes for myself.
Yeah.
And for my, ancestry.
Don't laugh. It is for your ancestry. Everything reverberates.
Really,
time is not linear. Remember that. Everything reverberates.
I feel that. And I know that something. It's funny, I went through my whole coaching training, not even knowing that I would coach. I just went through it because I wanted to do the work on myself.
Yeah.
And it was more rigorous than my master's degree.
Yeah.
And then I came out of it having had such a transformation that I thought, oh my God, I have these tools and I want to share them. I became like an evangelist.
Well,
I want to share these with other people.
I love that because reading your book, I think, first of all, I think you'd I know you're a great coach. And I'm not just saying that because I've heard that you're a great coach, not just because I like you and I've known you, but and because, it's true. Everybody, it's true. But I guess the thing is that I'm so glad that you decided to coach, because a person who has had such a deep and meaningful transformation like you have has so much to offer, and the person who needs a navigator, right? And I really do think coaching, because as you know, I have a coaching school, you're taking Envision, and but the idea of being able to be there to hold space for someone else's empowerment is incredible. It's like we say it at my coaching school that we're epiphany midwives, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, you give birth to people's ahas, and you're like, wow.
There's nothing better.
It isn't. I know. It's like, I know exactly. It's great. So I'm so happy to hear that you do have a thriving coaching practice, as well as you haven't quit over at
I haven't quit.
Good.
I'm still doing my
Good. Well, you made such a big difference in my life, and I always think too, just about how all those events we did it altered me forever, it changed my life. So I'm glad that you're still there, and Molly and everybody. And
you're so generous, Colette.
No, it's true. I'm just telling you the truth, and it's funny. Also having read your book, because I hadn't spoken to you in so long, I read the book and going, I want to make friends with this Nancy. It's like, I gotta phone her. No, it's amazing.
I know,
really.
It's delicious to have been reconnected with you these past couple months.
Me too. It's really been awesome. So okay, I'm just gonna tell my tribe, run to Amazon, run to Barnes and Nobles. I say that only when I really love something, and this is just an extraordinary book. Jump and your life will appear inch by inch. Life is not a cinch. What is it?
Jump and your life will appear, an inch-by-inch guide to making major change.
Yes, perfect. You got that, guys, right? But I really want something to happen now and for you all to enjoy. And I've asked Nancy to read the closing poem from this book. And get your Kleenex out. I don't have mine, so I'll just probably have mascara drip. So Nancy, please read Unbound.
Okay, so there's one poem that starts the book and one poem that closes the book, and this is the closer. So it's called Unbound. We may never know how we hold all we can, or how the light catches us when we are out of breath. It's a sign of healing to be feeling again. The real breakthrough can only arise from heartbreak. That which ails cures, reminding us that it's always about beginning and then beginning again. As the waves crash me, I trust the sand to polish my edges smooth, dissolving denial, revealing real, while courage and confidence ignite my core. Contraction and expansion let the light stream in, and the stillness, after so much thrashing about, allows the body to wring the sorrow out. As freedom floods, shadows may persist. Know your undertow as you alchemize the dark. And remember, you always have the strength to choose how to engage. The clouds unveil the view when you are ready to climb. Now it's time to notice the miraculous moments in your life as they are happening. This is the making of me. And we will walk courageously into daybreak from the night, shining our light together.
Ah. Oh my gosh, okay. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Oh geez, I knew I was gonna... Nancy, thank you so much for joining me on this just wonderful conversation that, and that poem, and boy, oh boy, oh boy. And guys, you see, I'm completely verklempt. Get her book, and I hope you are touched and moved as much as I am and have been by our conversation and by that poem, and let Nancy be the light in your tunnel. Just know this, that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to take the first step and jump.
Thank you.
Traveling down the road, I didn't know that I was lost. I had tried too many shortcuts, and the cost left my heart broken. So I had it closed for repairs. Wandering in my desert, your oasis appears. You're like a long, cool drink of water. I'm thirsty, that's clear when I taste you. I know you, I do. So can you feel it? Tell me, I need to know. Do you remember? Don't it feel like coming home? Your eyes are like the sea as it reflects the summer sky. You know I remember sailing there in some other life in your ocean. I'll swim till the end of time. You know that fate has got her own ideas. No matter what we plan, I know she weaves a spell around me when I am touching your hand. I'm touching your hand. So can you feel it? Tell me, I need to know. Do you remember? Don't it feel like coming home? So can you feel me? Oh, tell me, I need to know. And can you hear me singing for you to come home? Gonna feel like coming home. Gonna feel like coming home. Gonna feel like coming home. Don't it feel like coming home? Don't it feel like coming home? wandering in my desert. So can you feel me? Like I long for a drink of water. So can you hear me? Singing for you to come home.